Premiering in 1972, MASH ran for an incredible 11 years, far surpassing the actual duration of the Korean War, to tell the story of a group of army doctors at a field hospital. But behind the laughter and emotional moments, this groundbreaking series held countless unexpected secrets. From banned episodes and hilarious time-related errors to scandalous, intimate scenes involving the cast, MASH was full of surprises. What made MASH such a revolutionary phenomenon that it left an indelible mark on viewers for over half a century? Join us as we uncover 20 strange, fascinating, and sometimes shocking behind-the-scenes facts about MASH truths that will make you see this legendary series in an entirely new light. 1. The banned episode for being too sensitive. Behind the sometimes satirical humour of MASH were dark, emotional war stories. But there was one episode that CBS never dared to air because it was too sensitive. In this episode, American soldiers stood out in the freezing cold, hoping to get sick so they could be sent home. The idea may sound strange, but it was based on true stories from the Korean War. CBS feared that this episode would make viewers think the US military was cowardly or lacked patriotism. They worried that scenes of soldiers willing to harm themselves to escape the battlefield would offend audiences and tarnish the military's image. The writers tried hard to defend the episode's message, but it was all in vain. The episode was permanently frozen in the archives, never broadcast, and became one of MASH's biggest mysteries. 2. Radar. Hid-a-hand deformity. Radar O'Reilly, the innocent and lovable company clerk, was one of MASH's most beloved characters. But did you know that Gary Berghoff, the actor who played Radar, had a secret most viewers never noticed? He was born with a congenital deformity in his left hand, leaving 3 fingers misshapen. Rather than let this flaw affect the character, Gary and the production team cleverly hid it. Radar always appeared with his left hand concealed in his pocket, wearing gloves or holding props like a clipboard or coffee mug. And amazingly, viewers rarely noticed as Gary portrayed the character with such effortless authenticity. Even more impressive, Gary Berghoff was an accomplished drummer. Despite his difficulty with his left hand, he played drums masterfully, a talent MASH capitalized on by incorporating it into Radar's character. Radar wasn't just a symbol of innocence and optimism, he was also a testament to overcoming adversity. Gary Berghoff's story is an inspiring reminder that flaws are never barriers if you have determination and creativity. 3. The historic final episode.
Attention, attention! The following personnel are assigned to the 4077 Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. Alan Alda.
On February 28, 1983, MASH's final episode, Goodbye, Farewell and Amen, made television history with an astonishing 121 million viewers. It wasn't just an episode, it was a cultural event. Imagine this, over 77% of people watching TV in the US that day were glued to their screens, witnessing the emotional farewell of characters they'd loved for 11 years. Bars, restaurants, and even streets went quiet. Everyone stayed home crying and laughing with Hawkeye, Radar and their friends. Ad costs for the episode also broke records from $30,000 per 30-second ad in 1972 to $450,000 in 1983. This wasn't just the most watched episode in US television history, it was an unprecedented phenomenon. What made the episode special wasn't just the staggering numbers, but how it brought the story of such an iconic series to a close. It was a goodbye, not just for the characters, but also for millions of fans. Even today, Goodbye, Farewell and Amen is remembered as one of the greatest TV episodes of all time. 4. Klinger was almost a gay character.
I'm Section 8, head to toe. I'm wearing a Warner bra. I play with dolls. My last wish is to be buried in my mother's wedding gown. I'm nuts. I should be out.
Maxwell Klinger. MASH's hilarious cross-dressing soldier was one of the show's biggest sources of laughs. But few people know that the character was originally written very differently. The writers initially planned for Klinger to be a gay character, appearing in just one episode as a joke. Everything changed when Jamie Farr took the role. Instead of creating a fleeting gay character, Jamie proposed a bold new approach, making Klinger a man who cross-dressed to avoid being drafted. Initially, it was meant to be a short-lived gag, but Jamie's outstanding performance turned Klinger into a recurring character for all 11 seasons. Klinger's quirky outfits weren't just a comedic element, they symbolized creativity and determination to survive in harsh circumstances. Klinger wasn't just a joke, he became a symbol of resistance and personal freedom. Looking back, this decision to rewrite the character not only made Klinger one of MASH's most memorable figures, but also proved that sometimes small ideas can change the course of television history. 5. The extended runtime. The Korean War lasted only 3 years, 1950 to 1953, but MASH ran for 11 years on television. A fact that still makes fans chuckle. This created a fascinating paradox: the actors visibly aged over time while their characters only lived through 3 years of war. Alan Alda Hawkeye once joked, "We fought the longest war in human history." However, this extended runtime wasn't just for fan satisfaction. It allowed the writers to delve deeper into the characters' lives and explore larger themes like friendship war and human nature. Rather than focusing solely on real events, MASH became a story about those trying to maintain their humanity in inhumane circumstances. The conflict between real-world time and the show's timeline made MASH a unique masterpiece. It wasn't just a show about war, it was a series about life survival and the resilience to find hope in the darkest moments. 6. Censored intimate scenes.
Oh, pardon me. I thought I heard somebody yell for help. Carry on.
MASH was famous for pushing the boundaries of television, but even this bold show couldn't escape CBS's censorship scissors. Some intimate scenes between characters were cut, not because they didn't fit the story, but because CBS feared they exceeded the family-friendly standards of the time. Notably, these scenes were often deeply emotional moments between characters, especially in the context of war, where love and closeness became the greatest comforts. For instance, intimate moments between Hawkeye and Margaret or Trapper and the nurses were often toned down or removed entirely. Ironically, this censorship made MASH even more special. Instead of relying on explicit scenes to convey emotions, the writers skillfully conveyed them through glances, subtle gestures, or unspoken words. This not only kept the show appropriate for its time, but also added depth to the characters' relationships. Despite the censorship, MASH succeeded in portraying the complexities of love loss and compassion during wartime, often through small but powerful details. 7. The stolen time capsule. Did you ever think a seemingly insignificant time capsule could become a decades-long mystery? In a moment of fun, the cast of MASH decided to bury a time capsule at the outdoor set in Malibu Creek State Park. The capsule was filled with special mementos from the show, props photos, and even personal notes from the cast. However, when the show ended, the filming site was sold, and the time capsule was discovered by a construction worker. Instead of returning it to the cast, the worker took it home. No one knows exactly what was inside because the worker never revealed its contents. Alan Alda, with his characteristic humour, once joked, "We buried that capsule to send a message to the future, but I guess the future came a little earlier than expected." For MASH fans, the missing time capsule became a small legend, adding to the show's enduring allure. 8. Controversy over the theme song. Suicide is painless. The theme song of MASH is one of the most iconic melodies of all time. But behind its gentle, melancholic tune lies a much darker story. The song was composed for the 1970 MASH movie with lyrics written by Mike Altman, the 14-year-old son of director Robert Altman. The lyrics dealt with pain, despair, and even suicide, capturing the raw emotions of soldiers in war. However, when MASH was adapted into a TV series, CBS decided to use only the instrumental version, deeming the lyrics too dark and unsuitable for television audiences. Ironically, even without the lyrics, the melody left a lasting impression. It became a haunting symbol of MASH, evoking the pain and loss faced by the characters. Amusingly, Mike Altman, despite having his lyrics cut, earned more royalties from the song than his father did for directing the original movie. 9. Details from the future. Even a show as meticulous as MASH couldn't avoid slipping in a few anachronisms details that didn't exist during the Korean War. These future errors became a source of amusement for sharp-eyed fans. For example, Radar, known for his love of comic books, was once seen reading an issue published in 1969, while the show takes place in the early 1950s. In another episode, a chocolate bar appeared with a UPC barcode, a technology that wasn't invented until 1974. Even Hawkeye made a slip when he mentioned the Mickey Mouse Club, a show that didn't debut until 1955. These small mistakes, while amusing, only added to the charm of MASH. Rather than detract from the show's appeal, these anachronisms became little treasures for loyal fans who enjoyed spotting them and sharing a laugh. 10. A failed spin-off. Walter. After the massive success of MASH, CBS attempted to expand the universe with a spin-off series called Walter, focusing on Radar O'Reilly's life after the war. Unfortunately, while MASH was a global phenomenon, Walter was a catastrophic failure. The series followed Radar as he returned to his hometown in Iowa, only to face one misfortune after another. He failed at running, his family's farm was abandoned by his wife shortly after their honeymoon, and sank into severe depression. In one shocking moment, Radar even contemplated suicide, a storyline that outraged viewers and critics alike. Unlike MASH, which balanced humour and tragedy with finesse, Walter was weighed down by its overly bleak tone. Viewers were left confused and alienated by the drastic shift in Radar's character, who had always been a symbol of innocence and hope. Unsurprisingly, Walter aired just one episode before being cancelled. This failure proved that not every character could thrive outside their original context. Radar will always belong to MASH, where he brought light and optimism to the chaos of war. 11. The original author hated the show. You might think that Richard Hornberger, author of the novel MASH, a novel about 3 army doctors, would be proud of the legendary TV show based on his work. But in reality, he despised MASH. Writing under the pen name Richard Hooker Hornberger, based the character of Hawkeye Pierce on his own experiences as a doctor during the Korean War. His novel combined light humour with everyday wartime stories. However, when the book was adapted into a movie and then a TV series, Hornberger felt its essence was completely altered. The show's strong anti-war message was something Hornberger never intended. He once stated, "I didn't write the book to send an anti-war message. It was just about the funny stories we lived through." He believed the series distorted his work to push a political agenda, and he never forgave the creators for it. Despite his disdain, MASH made his book famous worldwide. Ironically, whether he liked it or not, Hawkeye Pierce became one of the most iconic characters in television history, surpassing the legacy of the original novel. 12. Klinger and his infamous dresses. Maxwell Klinger, the cross-dressing soldier of MASH, wasn't just a source of endless laughter, but also a symbol of creativity in adversity. However, Jamie Farr, who played Klinger, had to endure plenty of challenges with his scandalous wardrobe. Initially, Klinger was a minor character who dressed as a woman to get discharged on grounds of insanity. But as the series progressed, his cross-dressing became a defining trait, and Jamie Farr had to wear all kinds of women's outfits, from glittering evening gowns and wedding dresses to swimsuits, and even women's lingerie. Some of Klinger's outfits were so outrageous that they were labelled controversial by 1970s television standards. Jamie Farr once joked that if it weren't for MASH, he'd never have stepped foot in a women's clothing store. Despite the humour, Klinger wasn't just a joke. His character became a symbol of resistance and perseverance in the face of war. Jamie Farr's performances made Klinger one of the most unforgettable characters in MASH history. 13. Actors worked to exhaustion. Alan Alda Hawkeye. Pierce wasn't just the heart of MASH, he was also one of the driving forces behind its success. But to maintain the show's high quality, Alan worked himself to the point of exhaustion. In addition to acting in nearly every episode, Alan also wrote and directed 32 of them. His workdays often stretched to 16 hours, juggling acting, script editing, and directing responsibilities. He once admitted that there were times he felt like he was actually living in a field hospital. This relentless dedication paid off. Alan Alda became the first person to win Emmy Awards for acting, writing, and directing on the same show. However, this success came at a cost to his health and personal life. Alan Alda wasn't just a talented actor, he was a symbol of passion and commitment. His tireless efforts helped make MASH one of the most acclaimed shows in TV history. 14. Real-life friendship between Frank Burns and Hawkeye. On-screen, Hawkeye Pierce and Frank Burns were bitter enemies. But off-screen, Alan Alda and Larry Linville, who played Frank, were close friends whose bond lasted even after Larry left the show. Larry Linville decided to leave MASH after 5 seasons, feeling that Frank Burns wasn't being developed further as a character. Despite this, he and Alan Alda stayed in touch. Their friendship became widely known when Alan gave the eulogy at Larry's funeral in 2000. At Larry's request, Alan ended his speech with a humorous line, "Now the worms will finally eat Frank Burns." This story not only brought laughter, but also touched fans deeply. It showed that behind the on-screen rivalry, there was a genuine and admirable friendship. 15. MASH criticised by the US military. Despite being loved by millions of viewers, MASH didn't receive a warm reception from the US military. Some episodes were criticised for portraying soldiers and the military in an unflattering light. One notable example was the episode where soldiers deliberately made themselves sick to get sent home. Military officials felt this painted an unpatriotic and disrespectful image of American soldiers. Other humorous scenes depicting chaos in field hospitals were also deemed offensive by some. However, the creators of MASH stood their ground. They insisted that the show wasn't meant to demean the military, but to reflect the harsh realities of war. This bold approach helped MASH become a timeless masterpiece that transcended traditional television. 16. Radar contemplated suicide in the spin-off. Radar O'Reilly, the innocent and cheerful company clerk of MASH, was beloved for his optimism during the horrors of war. But when Radar became the lead character in the spin-off, his image was completely overturned. The spin-off followed Radar after the war as he returned to his hometown in Iowa. However, his life was riddled with misfortunes. He failed to manage his family farm. His wife left him shortly after their honeymoon, and he sank into deep depression. In one particularly shocking moment, Radar even contemplated suicide, a storyline that upset both viewers and critics. This drastic change in Radar's character alienated fans who had always seen him as a symbol of hope and innocence. Unsurprisingly, Walter was cancelled after just 1 episode. The failure of Walter serves as a reminder that not every character can thrive outside their original context. Radar will forever belong to MASH, where he brought light and laughter to one of TV's darkest settings. 17. Real-life romance behind the scenes. MASH wasn't just a place where characters built friendships on screen, it was also where real-life romances blossomed. Some cast members developed romantic feelings for one another, but they kept these relationships private to avoid affecting the show. One prominent rumour involved Loretta Sweet, who played Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan and a crew member. Though neither party ever confirmed the relationship, their closeness sparked curiosity among the cast and crew. Loretta later admitted that her time on MASH was filled with not only professional growth, but also deeply personal and memorable experiences. Other rumours surrounded Alan Alda and some female cast members, but Alan consistently emphasised his devotion to his family and work. Nevertheless, the idea of behind-the-scenes romance remains an intriguing mystery for MASH fans. Ultimately, the professionalism of the cast ensured that personal relationships never interfered with the show's quality. Yet it's clear that the MASH set wasn't just a workplace, it was a space full of emotion and unforgettable moments. 18. MASH broke all limits on time. The Korean War lasted 3 years, 1950–1953, but on television the war seemed endless. MASH ran for 11 years and 251 episodes, stretching nearly 4 times longer than the actual conflict, a fact that still amuses fans. This extended duration led to some interesting contradictions. The actors visibly aged over the years, while their characters remained stuck in the same 3-year timeframe. Alan Alda Hawkeye famously joked, "We fought the longest war in human history." However, this extended runtime wasn't without purpose. It gave the writers the opportunity to explore characters in depth and address universal themes beyond the war, friendship, love loss, and humanity. This shift allowed MASH to transcend its premise as a war series and become a profound story about life. While the length of the series occasionally tested the writer's creativity, it also gave MASH its unique identity. It wasn't just a show about war, it was a timeless exploration of what it means to be human. 19. Actors endured extreme weather conditions. Filming at a field hospital might seem exciting, but the harsh weather conditions at Malibu Creek State Park, the outdoor set of MASH, made it a real challenge for the cast. During summer, temperatures at the park often soared above 40 degrees, 104 degrees, leaving the cast sweating profusely in their thick military uniforms. Loretta Sweet, Margaret Houlihan, recalled that the crew frequently had to take breaks to avoid heat exhaustion. In contrast, winter brought freezing temperatures, forcing actors to huddle under blankets between takes. Jamie Farr-Klinger once fell seriously ill after shooting a scene outdoors in the rain and cold. Despite these challenges, the cast took the extreme weather in stride. They often joked that the tough conditions helped them better understand the hardships endured by real soldiers in the Korean War. 20. The departures of Henry Blake and Trapper John.
Yo! You out there? You hear me? This is Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake.
If there's one moment that left MASH fans stunned, it was the sudden death of Henry Blake, played by McLean Stevenson in Season 3. Henry Blake, one of the show's most beloved characters, was killed when his plane home was shot down. What made this moment even more shocking was that the cast didn't know about Henry's death until the final moments. The script was kept a secret, and their grief during the scene was completely genuine. This marked the first time a major character was killed off in a television series, creating a monumental and emotional moment in TV history. Similarly, the departure of Trapper John, played by Wayne Rogers, left fans shaken. Wayne left the show because he felt his character wasn't being developed enough. But unlike Henry Blake, Trapper's exit wasn't given a proper farewell. He simply disappeared from the series without explanation, leaving fans with a sense of loss. These departures not only surprised audiences, but also reshaped how MASH handled its characters. The show continued to thrive, but the absence of Henry and Trapper left an indelible mark on its legacy. MASH was not just a television series. It was a timeless cultural phenomenon that touched the hearts of millions with its humour, humanity, and emotionally rich stories. Yet, it was the behind-the-scenes secrets from banned episodes and heated conflicts to ahead-of-its-time moments that added even more allure and depth to this legendary show. More than 50 years since its debut, MASH has maintained its place as a television icon, not only because of its outstanding content, but also thanks to the surprising stories behind the camera. This stands as proof of the show's ability not only to captivate audiences, but also to make them curious and fall in love with the world beyond the screen. Thank you for watching the video. If you found it interesting, don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you won't miss out on more exciting content. Which fact about MASH impressed you the most? Leave a comment below. See you in the next video.